Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with raregem-productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to feed your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy-Maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl-Watkins-Moore. I lead our BioSTL's inclusion initiative for the region here in St. Louis. Hey, Christy girl.
How are you, dear?
Doing well. And
excellent.
Where are we?
Are in the middle or quarter. We're in the midst.
Oh, in the midst
of season 8. That's where we are.
Wow.
In fact, this might be our 100th episode. I'm getting a head nod from Jade. So we've hit a huge milestone. 2 years, 100 shows.
Wow.
Over 24,000 plays and downloads.
Wow.
So we're rocking it.
You
That's where we are. We're rocking it.
You've made us, guys out there listening. You've made it. So we reached our 100th episode. Thank you.
Who would have thunk? I'm just saying.
Not us.
We've grown a lot, and we're really glad that you grew with us.
Yes.
And with the support of our founding sponsors, CET and BioSTL,
yes,
we're able to keep doing this. And so that for that, we are most grateful. We encourage you to help us help others tune into the show. So help us spread the word. You can make sure that you are subscribed so you're automatically downloading our episodes every week. Invite your friends to tune in. Share your favorite episode. I know my best friend just shared one of her favorite podcast episodes. So when you do it, you help us reach a whole new listener set. So find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, LinkedIn,
wherever you are. Wherever you are, we want to be.
Exactly.
And you mentioned something early on about feeding your entrepreneurial mindset.
And
today,
because
we are going to be feeding your entrepreneurially mindset.
We are.
So we have owner Estrella, Estie Cruz Curoe. If you all don't know who she is, oh my God.
You might know her brand, del-carmen-foods.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
But if you haven't,
you're going to listen today. So stop whatever you're doing. Or, hey, if you're working out, put your headsets on and keep working out.
And then
go buy some food.
food.
So Estie is here today. She was born in Cuba and she moved to the United States as a child. Her company, del-carmen-foods, makes and sells delicious black bean dishes, soups, and dips. Her beans are made in the traditional Cuban method, only in small batches, handmade, and slow cooked with fresh quality ingredients. We are all over it. Her beans reflect an era when cooking wasn't considered a chore. Unlike in my house, it totally is.
But not when I get when I get Del Carmen.
Exactly.
She's already done all the work for me.
Exactly. So her product line, or Del Carmen's product line, is expanding, and the company is looking to open additional locations outside of the St. Louis area to better serve other cities. You guys are in for a treat out there. She's expanding and coming your way. So when we come back, we'll meet Estie and become enlightened in bean entrepreneurship. So stay listening.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast, and we want you to know all about the great things they are up to. STL Fundamentals is an entrepreneur development program targeted to founders wishing to start a company in the bioscience space, including therapeutic products, diagnostic products, medical devices, animal and crop agriculture products, and research tools. Participants earn resources by achieving specific coaching goals. You can learn more about BioSTL Fundamentals by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
My name is Estie Cruz Curoe. My company is Del Carmen, and definitely entrepreneurially thinking beings. Just enlighten, experience, go for it, give it a try.
So, Estie, we are thrilled that you're here. Cheryl, it's been a couple of years since you've seen Estie. It's been at least 6 months since I've seen Estie. But we've had the pleasure of knowing you for a while.
Yes.
What I didn't know is that before this part of your life, before del-carmen-foods, you were actually working in insurance in Chicago, where you met your husband.
And my other life. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your other life before we dissect your current life.
And welcome.
Yes.
Thank you. I worked for a major insurance company. It was car insurance. I was in the claims department. Was my home base. And I did have several managerial positions there. Culminating in I had a district office, and it was
you were a big deal, basically. You were a big deal.
Yeah. And you met your husband, right?
But I didn't meet him there.
You didn't meet him in Chicago?
I did meet him in Chicago, but not at work.
Not at work.
Just to be clear.
She did
Just
not cross
all
that.
business.
She did cross
It was
that
all
line.
business.
That's right.
But then from Chicago, which is Cheryl's hometown,
Yay.
you guys went to Kansas City. And is that where you started cooking, not just for your family, but for others?
Yeah, Kansas City was coming from Chicago to Kansas City. It was very different.
Yes. Great cities, but different cities.
Absolutely, completely different.
Yeah.
And it always takes some adjustment. And it took me that. And on top of that, I went from a career to staying at home. So
lots of change.
It was incredible. It was just huge change. But anyway, being at home and being a new mom and being new at this, I figured I may as well learn to cook.
So you didn't feel like you knew how to cook beforehand? So some people knew how to cook but just weren't cooking?
I could do Jell-O.
You could do Jell-O. Oh, I feel a kindred spirit. I could do a little bit more than Jell-O, but I just don't really cook anymore
Estie,
at all.
coming from Cuba, you did not know how to cook?
No.
Okay, so was it old family recipes, or was it self-taught completely and just knowing the flavors you wanted to replicate? So what does this look like? Because really...
I picked up a Cuban cookbook and started learning how to cook Cuban food. But then the beans were hard.
Because you knew what you wanted them to taste like.
Exactly.
So you weren't a cook per se. You were an
she was a connoisseur.
eater. A connoisseur. That's such a better word than eater.
A connoisseur of the flavor.
I did know.
And so
the
you
flavors
knew what
for
flavor
sure. I
you
knew.
were looking
Yes.
for,
Yeah.
and the
Indeed.
beans were eluding you.
Yeah, and beans are not the easiest food to cook.
Really?
They take time. It takes planning, and if you don't get it right,
with the seasoning,
it's another 24 hours because you have to soak them.
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. And I cannot tell you how many times.
So you started
she
in your own
smiles
kitchen,
and through
right.
gritted teeth goes, how many times
I fed all our
beans?
Oh my God.
I fed all our daughters' teachers, all of our neighbors.
Now, is Mike Cuban too?
No,
your husband?
No, Mike is Irish.
Okay.
So he was fine with the bland.
Yeah.
He loves Cuban food.
I was
Make
going to
no
say,
mistake.
you've introduced him to Cuban, the delicious dishes and everything.
It didn't take much.
There we go.
So he could care less about how the beans tasted. You were the one that said, these beans are not right.
Well,
or did
there
he?
is some truth to that.
Okay.
In the sense when you don't have a reference point,
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
then it's different. Mine may have been better than the canned bean, but they weren't what I wanted.
That's not what you were used to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the recipe is mine.
Mm-hmm.
I just kept. So there were a lot of trial and errors.
So how did you make the leap of, I want this perfect for my family, to, you know what, I can do this as a business?
People were planting the seed as they tasted them. And at that time, our kids were really, really young. I didn't think it was a good time to do. And I really never thought of being an entrepreneur in any way, shape, or form. But I heard it enough where I started paying attention to the market.
Because you were feeding everybody.
Well, no, I started feeding everybody afterward when I realized, by golly, there is a niche in the market that nobody's filling.
Right.
You know,
and in Kansas City, how many Cuban types of food and
not a lot of choices.
Not very limited.
But beans, I'm talking about beans specifically because you can make Cuban food in general is not that difficult to make in a kitchen.
In my kitchen, it is. Everybody else's, but yeah.
But it's no different from, say, any American dish or a casserole or something like that. It's just the beans were particularly challenging.
Wow! So you saw that as a real opportunity.
Afterward, people, I didn't before. Until I started making them. And then I started getting the compliments and you should do something with this, And then I started looking at the markets. I started trying them from the canned bean, just seasoning them. And it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So this is how this whole thing got started of doing it. And then I go to Miami, like at least once a year and realized, wow, not even in Miami, they don't have any commercialized product that is already seasoned unless you go to the deli or a restaurant.
So you could find the finished product in those settings, but otherwise you either had to make it at home or...
Correct.
I'm shocked, especially, in Florida.
Well, what happens is a lot of the Hispanic population knows how to make them.
Right. They're making them at home.
Making them at home.
They don't have to worry about us.
It's only when you reach a stage where you're like, okay, I don't want to cook. I don't want to spend that much time, or I want the convenience.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of, the convenience. Yeah,
even it's the convenience. Yeah, if you like them, why put yourself through all of that? It's the convenience because it does take planning,
right,
to get beans.
Well,
done
that's
right.
just like black eyed peas. It's an African American staple, and it's almost. It's not a. I don't know. I don't think it's a bean. It's a pea, but it's the same thing. You've got to. If you're gonna make it, you got to get up in the morning soaking those peas. So,
and God forbid your plans change the following day.
Oh, exactly. Oh, wow.
So we've talked a lot, and as we've got to know each other, about just the rise of the bean within just food staples, right? Because I didn't grow up eating beans. It just wasn't part of, like, we had peas, right? But we didn't grow up eating beans. But when you say you looked at the market, you not only looked at what the flavors out there were and what people were eating, but just the movement towards plant-based foods, too, I imagine was really influential in your decision to move forward as well.
I had never heard plant-based food.
That's a fancy way of saying no meat.
Right. I had no idea when I started this.
Oh, really? Because you are such an advocate of it now that I thought, wow, it just must have really.
Because how long ago did you start?
Well, the thought was 2004 was when I started looking into this.
Okay.
I didn't sell till 2009. Here in St. Louis was my first sale. But all my research started back in 2004. I had attended a fast-track class in Kansas City.
So
and
Kaufman Foundation does these fast-track classes, and you can do them online, too.
Yes, and they encouraged me to move forward with this.
That's awesome.
But at that time, we didn't know. I had no idea they were as healthy as they are. I just knew that, based on my experience, it was a fabulous food. But I had no idea they were healthy. In fact, I was shocked that I liked something that was that healthy.
I love that.
So 2009, what was the turning point? I mean, what made you start? I mean, you did your business plan. Tell us the steps that you took in order to start selling in 2009.
By then, we had developed a recipe.
Okay. A lot of trial and error, I'm sure, right?
And actually, I started with farmers markets. I give so much credit to the farmers markets.
Great place.
It is because of them that our product is as good as it is. They perfected it for me. The feedback that I received was fabulous. You know, I when I first started, someone said, "Oh, back off some of the salt. It's a little salty." I backed off some of the salt.
So
it turned out to be a better product.
I was going to say, so you're at the farmer's market serving food.
And
Yes,
selling product and having, because farmers market folks, they come back week after week, right?
Yes.
And giving you feedback in real time,
great.
essentially.
Yeah, they've been amazing. It is because of them that our product has been perfected, I want to say. And then I started out with the beans with beer, with the Schlafly beer, and then people started asking me, you need to come up with a gluten-free product. I didn't even know what gluten was. So
how the hell could it be gluten-free? Right?
Well, I realized that beans by themselves are a gluten-free product. But by adding the beer,
right,
I was adding gluten. So I came up with another recipe without the beer. And then I even lowered even more salt on that. So that's less salt even. And but all of our products are vegan. I'm not vegan, so it's perfectly normal to eat beans with sausage or meat or chicken. Or
you can do whatever you want with them once you get
there
them
isn't
home.
Anything you can't do with beans.
So 2009, you started selling at farmers markets,
right?
And then what? Then what did it take you? Where did it take you?
To other farmers markets.
So were you still cooking out of your kitchen, or did you move into a facility?
I never did cook out of my kitchen. I was cooking out of the St. Patrick's Center. Still am until I move, but I'm still there.
And St. Patrick's Center is here in St. Louis. They have a commercial kitchen available.
Yes, they do.
For all of you folks out here who want to develop food products. A great way to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So you were a reluctant entrepreneur who entered through farmers markets and did your product development and testing that way.
That's smart.
What all of this, what tipped for you in terms of being comfortable with the idea of being an entrepreneur? Because you said you were like, that never was in my way of even thinking about myself and who I might be. So there's the food development, the product development, and great feedback on that. But then actually taking the leap and becoming an entrepreneur, that's a whole different thing.
No man is an island. And I didn't jump into it like by myself. There were others who are like, there's something to this.
Okay.
So your spouse and your family were really supportive?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
You can't do it without that, I don't think.
I agree.
It's critical to have that support. And
What were you afraid of in terms of becoming an entrepreneur?
What was I afraid of, or what am I afraid of?
Well, both, because those change, right? So I imagine initially there was some fear and trepidation, and that the things you used to be afraid of probably aren't the things you're afraid of today.
She's looking like...
She's like, no, I'm afraid of all of it.
I really wasn't afraid at the beginning. That
you didn't know? No. That's how I feel sometimes, too. Is if I don't know, then you
can't be afraid of it, right?
Can't be afraid of it.
Maybe now, because of the reality hits you and you're like, whoa, this really does have to work now. Now we're in.
Now we're in.
Now we're in, and it has to work.
Because you are not only you are in grocery stores.
Right.
You are not just local, correct?
We are just starting to go outside.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic. So when we come back, we're going to talk to you more about your business, maybe some of the things that your growth that you're experiencing. And I want to know about this peace, love, and beans tagline. So when we come back, we'll talk to you further.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Bootcamp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Bootcamp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
Nicole Adewale with Ab Engineering. Thinking entrepreneurially is thinking about how you can leverage resources to help other people, which in turn serves your own self-interest.
So you're all in. It's got to work, right? So today, what does it mean to be running Del-Carmen and encouraging the world to explore the enlightened state of being?
I would like people to experience how good this food can be, and kind of erase those who have only tasted a canned bean by itself and have shied away from it because of the whatever reason.
It's not good.
Then, but they are great for as an ingredient in a soup. They're great. They have their purpose. They have their purpose.
Okay.
And, I can sit here and say, yes, we're a great ingredient, but we're an expensive ingredient because we're really more of a meal than we are
right, because you're actually producing finished products. You're doing the hummuses and the dips and the soups and the rice and beans.
And they're already seasoned and ready to eat. It's a convenience meal type. It's a convenient food.
Like you said, it was the niche in the market that wasn't being filled.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah, I want people to experience how good they can be by themselves over rice, in a salad.
So you're like a bean evangelist at this point.
Okay.
I think when you're out there talking about an enlightened state of being and peace-loving beings, that you're at least an advocate.
The song of beans,
and that's fabulous. So, because not only will that
and that's a
help
business
build
model
to your business, but that also is an investment in an entire segment that not only reflects culture but also reflects the changing eating habits that we're all experiencing as well, right?
And you must be seeing the uptake. I mean, because like you said, there are beans on the shelves today.
Right.
So you're making an impact. And do you think it's because it's filling this space of these are finished products, that it's not just an additive to a meal? This can be your meal that's already seasoned? Right.
Absolutely. And it's got a unique flavor that is very cross-cultural, and it's very cross-generational. And that has been validated by the food shows I have been to.
Oh, wow.
Where people have said, wow, this is really unique. It's a unique product with unique flavors that they thought were wonderful.
Good.
Just one of those. And they've even validated that, you don't have to put this in a Hispanic
dish
category in a food store. It should be.
Also, it's not going to sit. That's a really good thing. So it doesn't sit on the Hispanic shelf, or does it?
No one has put them there, but their whole point is that it's not. It's not categorized as that. It's a food that can go well beyond that.
That's really good. Yeah, I love that. So what are some of the challenges that you've had in growing this business?
Where do I begin?
Well, you've been really methodical, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
2004, you started your research. 2009, you started doing your farmers markets. We're in 2018, and you're getting ready to move out of the St. Patrick's Kitchen into your own square footage. So, yeah, what are those challenges? But also, your approach to entrepreneurship has also been very methodical.
It has, but yes, it has, for several reasons. One, you don't want to be so blinded by the love of something to not realize that perhaps there is no market for you. I knew I needed to differentiate myself sufficiently for there to be a market for what I was doing.
So people loving it wasn't enough in your mind. You really needed to make sure.
I needed to be validated by the industry.
We always tell folks, you have to have more than a focus group of your friends and family. And in your case, it was like you have to have more than a focus group of your farmers market, right?
Correct.
You needed even more to know that you were on the right track.
The industry needed to validate me.
And how has that occurred?
Well, first through an accelerator program
So what accelerator did you do?
AUA Equity out of New York.
And that's backed by, is that
It's-
Goya?
Well,
and
there's a
whole bunch of other folks?
It's an equity. It's not. It really is separate.
Okay.
But there is some connection, family. But at any rate, they do only food.
Oh,
How did you find them?
Accelerators.
Or how did they find you?
Actually, ask Mark Bowers.
Mark Bowers, our friend at St. Louis Makes and Brick City Makes. Yeah.
He had a connection there somehow, and that either they called him and asked him if is there anything there, whatever. But they're the ones who connected us,
Okay.
and so it worked out, and they've validated us. But they do only food.
Oh, that's great.
That's huge for them to have a specialty like that, an equity group to really
And
specialize
I'm sure it
in
helped to
food.
open a lot of doors for you, especially if they're only doing food that's right in your industry, and those people have connections.
They've been good mentors.
Good.
It's been more of a mentorship relationship. There's been no capital, no equity exchanged.
But relationships to leverage can be just as important or more than the actual financial piece.
They've been really good as far as giving us guidance, validating us, validating even the frozen aspect, because we are the only frozen beans in the market.
Oh, wow.
They even validated that there's a future for that.
So was that intentional to be the only frozen, or how did you get into that piece?
That came from another mentor. The Oklahoma State University has a food and ag division, and I did go there, and they've been amazing as well. And that was back in 2004, and they're still in the picture.
We've been talking you to death.
Thank you.
So it seems like what Christy said, you were very, a lot of entrepreneurs, they think, oh, I got this great idea. I'm going to launch it right away. And
Everybody said I should be doing
right.
this.
And
they're like,
I'm going to be making
I'm gonna order
$1
40,000 units
right, tomorrow. But it seemed like Christy said, you took your time, you validated, you got validation. And as you got that validation, you continued to build your business.
It takes an incredible amount of money to get to a profitable place, depending on what your approach to money is, knowing that you have to spend all this money and there's no capital available at the early stages.
And when you say there's is it through the tremendous amount of money is capital intensive? But you were going through food, commercial kitchens. Where was the cost associated? It was the packaging. Do you have to do FDA at all?
Yes.
So that is a big.
It's not expensive, but you do have to make sure that you're complying.
Right?
Yeah, you don't want to hurt anyone.
Right.
You have to have healthy food. So, but it's the packaging. It's, farmers markets are great, but they're not as inexpensive as you would think, because you're giving out samples too. And you have to get your banner, and you have to, there's a lot of little things that you have to think about. Then, of course, you need help, someone helping you. So you've got some labor involved. You've got to pay people. Then when you get to the point where I'm at now we're talking some really big money.
and raw materials, you're dealing with a perishable product, which is one of the reasons you were probably advised around the frozen aspect, right? Because you're doing preservative-free, handmade batch items. So going frozen must have been a part of the economic equation as much as the flavor equation.
And the challenge equation, because there isn't that much frozen space available. Yeah, that was a big challenge.
But I think people need to hear, because Christy and I have run across people who are foodpreneurs or wannabe foodpreneurs, and they believe it's really just, I can make this in my kitchen and turn this out and sell it. What you've talked about are not the issues. These are all the requisite steps that are involved in becoming a successful food business. So, yeah, you can make it in your kitchen, but you've got a lot of other hurdles to go through in order to get it on the shelf. And grocery shelves and their margins are really thin anyway, correct? So, and that space is, from my understanding, is, coveted space.
Yep.
So you got to make sure that your product is is whatever, what do they call it? Eye line?
Eye level.
Eye level. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
And if you're not-
or you have to ask people, look down or look up.
There
or
you
whatever.
go. There you go.
Just
but
don't
you
be
got a
afraid.
great brand. People will look down, look up.
Yes,
Right.
yes, they will. They will look for your product. If they like your product, they don't. It doesn't matter where they put it.
Exactly. They'll ask for it.
Yes. You know,
Wow.
ideally you want to be on an end cap and you want to be at eye level. Yes, that's the ideal situation.
But you're
Usually
not
reserved
craft.
for the big boys.
Right. I was going to say, you're not craft yet, but
Yet,
you will
that-
be. You will be.
But, you know, I also have the challenge that I freeze them.
Right?
And you don't think of looking for beans in the freezer
Yeah.
section. So that's a marketing challenge. Now I haven't gone there yet, but I look forward to having enough capital to do some marketing to guide people to the frozen food section. It really is the best way to keep fresh food fresh.
Yeah.
That's great.
And now at this particular inflection point, we talked about you're moving from a shared kitchen into your own space. What is growth looking like now? Is it about distribution channels? Is it about quantity and volume? And what does success look like?
Right. What
moving
is it?
forward?
The path that has been open to me has been locally. We have Cisco STL who is carrying us. You know, they're
Huge distributor.
yes, they are a huge distributor to restaurants and food service in general.
So they actually can get you in front of the end users. So folks who might put you on your menu and put you on their shelves and put you in their cafeterias and all the places where somebody like
Exactly.
Cisco.
So was that a difficult, what do you call it? Not just how did you get in touch with Cisco? Did you have to leverage that? Or was some of that your mentors that brought Cisco to the table?
That was my association with the Hispanic Chamber.
our favorite friends,
Yes,
Gabriella and Carlos.
yes.
Yes, indeed.
And a whole
Gabriella
bunch-
played a big role on that.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
That
that's
is
where
great.
that came from. And she opened that door.
That's great. That is
So-
great. So you are leveraging all the relationships to get you where you are. That's great. That's what you need
and I
to be
welcome
doing.
more. We need more.
There you go. There you go.
So what does scaling look like at this
Yeah.
point? Because I'm sure with Cisco that door opens, but that also means that you
More
could
stuff.
get huge orders.
Yes.
Right?
We can only hope.
Absolutely. You will get huge orders.
Exactly.
So how are we doing that?
We want huge
We are
orders. We need
speaking it
huge
into
orders right now.
existence. Right.
We
are
do need them
speaking it-
big.
Yes.
We have
yes.
to
that
think
means
big at
new-
this point.
There you
That
go.
means new equipment, more people,
Right.
all
Right.
sorts of things, right?
Right. That's correct.
Oh,
and then
that's exciting.
on
It
top
is.
of that, then on the grocery side, we do have a distributor out of Chicago. I have a broker first. First came
Okay.
the broker who said they wanted to represent me. And
Great.
then that opened the door to Kehi distributors out of Chicago. And I'll tell you, that's expensive. But at the same time, what I'm doing now is branding beyond the farmer's market.
Sure.
And that
And it's
and it
expensive.
gets very expensive. So
Yes.
this coming year is going to be super expensive. So yes, I need money. And capital.
Speak it
Capital
out
is
into
a big,
existence.
yeah.
That's it.
The next year is going to be just getting that branding out. It's going to be very, very expensive.
So all of you all listening, y'all better go out and buy some
Del-Carmen.
Del-Carmen. You don't know what you're missing.
So how did you, speaking of marketing, where does the name come from?
Del-Carmen is my middle name.
Okay.
I was born Estrella del Carmen, and when I got married, I didn't use del Carmen anymore so that I could keep my maiden last name. So Estrella-Cruz-Curoe instead of Estrella del Carmen-Cruz-Curoe. There weren't enough.
Too many syllables.
Absolutely, no one had that much space for me to
space.
I like it. Practical. But it meant that you had this wonderful opportunity
Yes.
to then brand your products that way. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is exciting.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
So your journey has been and is unfolding in such a wonderful way. What advice would you give for other, particularly food entrepreneurs
Yes.
who are looking at how do I take this thing that everybody says they love and want more of to market? What would you advise for them?
I would listen to them. Definitely listen to them and let them guide you. They can do that.
There's some wisdom in the crowd.
Oh, there's a lot of wisdom in the crowd.
Just got to be willing to listen. Yes.
Yes.
And I think what you're doing is so wonderful because not only are you producing a great product, you are giving back a lot to community. So Estie, for you guys, if you don't know, she is going to be featured. By the time you hear this, it'll be over. But she's going to be one of our hosts at a roundtable discussion at Vision. And she also is
supporting us through the Square One program and sharing her story there. So, yeah, absolutely. In the midst of growing your company,
yes,
you're very generous with giving time back to help
this
others
is an area,
learn and grow.
Yeah, people don't know about food. It is something, especially if you're doing it on your own, it can be quite challenging.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to your 100th.
Oh my God. Well,
this is awesome.
I mean, like you, we have, folks said, hey, you should do this, right? And you have to listen sometimes when people say, hey, you should do this. And figure out the path forward. So
we stepped out on faith.
We're just excited to see how you're growing and how, what started, like you said, as this practical way to feed your family and transition from life in corporate to life at home and raising your children has now become an entirely new opportunity for you. And we really appreciate you taking time to share that with our listeners.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a real pleasure. You guys are fun.
We try. We try really hard.
Thank you. From feeding your family to feeding the communities.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneurially-thinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.